Hey tribe, how are you? I want to share based on Amanda's comment, which I have put in the description. It's about judgment and judgment blocking our bliss and having um, whether or not we can ever become totally judgment free. And I think it's just easing up on ourselves and recognizing that we are just a work in progress. And I do believe that there is an aspect of us that is always judgment free. That's that ability to really expand into that voidal awareness, the kind of infinite self that can really just be present with the totality of being, which is your being and everyone else's being. And in that infinite space, in that kind of rest in peace place, that is a totally judgment free zone for all of us. So, this, and that's the idea of the keep going and keep going, because we continually catch ourselves in those judgment modes. And when we can, in the moment, just be with the frustration and like detach from the thoughts that are there about us being in a rut about it, about them, about where it's coming from. If we just expand further and like let that heat or let that frustration energy kind of move through us, again, this is where we can start to discern, like root it out, basically be with the frustration, root it out in that moment. And then that's where, jump to another comment you made about our collective energies and is it my energy or is it their energy. When we can expand and detach, that's where we get the wave or the storm comes through us and we have some profound emotional shift, right? Or we're just present with an energy and it might slide past. It might just kind of like move through us when we can really detach. And that's where I can witness more this feeling from within myself intuitively. Yes, this is a collective shift. This is our collective energy zone. These, some of the people we're around don't have the awareness or the ability or the connected feelings to even honor or recognize some energies that they might be carrying. So in any given moment on a broader level, we could be feedbacking off of other someone else's unconscious and then picking up on uh, our kind of feedback off of that. So we're doing that deeper work, and then if we can clear that out and find harmony with it, and this is where it becomes like, I guess, the darker aspect of expanding our light field is that we have to have the non-judgment to be able to intuitively perceive and discern, like this is the feedback I'm receiving, and that's what the intuition is telling me, and that's the truth for me in my discernment ability to. And that's where I guess the idea of boundary comes in, is that we don't really want to have walls up and boundaries up against one another. We want to be able to feel the fullness of the exchange from within self and intuitively discern that's theirs, that's their unconscious, that might be energy, thought form, projections that they're putting on you. And then there's like some stuff to work out regarding what power have we given to these people, or where in our lives are we seeking validation, attention, recognition, um, seeking something that they're not upholding, right? So that's where we have these disparities in our energy, because there's somehow an expectation linked to that person's behavior, or an expectation based on patterns. So that's where we can look at a pattern, and just the fact in this moment that you're sharing and expressing, boom, look, I have this judgment, I have this sort of looping perpetual judgment against this person. So you can sit with that and keep rooting it out, and every time it comes up, just keep rooting it out. And over time, or there'll just be an instant aha, there, I see it, I see where that kind of rooted disparity or that rooted conflict is from within myself. And then you liberate yourself, and then you liberate the other person, and what happens is it just they don't trigger you the same way, or literally they metamorph. They kind of morph into a slightly different version of themselves when they're around you because you're not carrying that energy anymore. So you can be totally non-judgmental, and we can totally always expand into that infinite voidal space. It's just our own ability to totally own our intuition when it comes to deciphering how we're working with our own energy field, which includes all the people in it. Um, and there is a subtle default that we all do a lot of times along the way, is that we can feel something and then we start to almost judge ourselves, and then we forgive ourselves and we're doing the work, and then really what you're reflecting back to me is the fact that this we are as beings continually a work in progress. That I'm sure I either shared it on Facebook or somewhere, like literally within the last week it was like knowing, like, I was watching myself going into gossip. I was, like, literally watching myself going into, like, "Ooh, give me the juicy goss," like, ugh. And then in contrast, what I am working with is obviously transforming that, is that, ugh, gossip is usually perpetuating, like, kinda crappy stories about other people that can, like, make our ego feel good in the moment. I caught myself and I watched it all, and then literally within 24 hours, I hop onto social media, and the first post I see is about, like, a gossip and how gossip is not fun or cool, and I'm just like, "I know this." And then I recognize that's why I'm still in that situation. That's why those people's behavior are still triggering me in such a way, because I've looked at it, I've been looking at it, I've been looking at it, and I've been kind of creating space and moving and pioneering my way in a different direction. And so yet again, there's another big leap to make. And that as we make that leap, then those energies drop away from our existence, right? Or drop away from our experiential reality, because we're not feeding it anymore. And that would then in my reality certainly remove myself from the pattern of looping into those gossip circles, because I would distance myself, create separation from that old condition, right? That I held from within. Um, so it is this sort of continual taking risks and s- facing situations. Like sometimes it might even be asking us to face situations, and then that, by facing it, creates more energy dynamism for us to see, and contrast, right? Contrast for us to look at, which is really us, just when I talk about it in the Fearless Life Guide, it's really just us looking at the spectrum of our emotional field, and the patterns that align with the lower ends. So the control patterns, the anger, the judgment, the fear, the shame, the guilt. Looking at those, like, more sticky patterns, and consciously using the detachment and the rest in peace and the voidal meditation space to look at those every time they come up. And that's why it's like, oh, persistent and diligent. But then think of it this way: the way we're programmed is persistent and diligent. Day after day, this is what you think, this is what you do, this is how we relate to one another. We watch TV drama and programs every day, we loop into that. So us unraveling it is more than likely going to be have to kind of be a similar diligent work in progress, a diligent, like, so hence the best chance we have of totally unplugging and then focusing on this new reality, on this, I'm the creator of this. Like, okay, ooh, that doesn't work. Oh, look at what I'm doing here. And not being judgmental towards ourselves at all, about the fact that we judge, because if we can acknowledge we're judging, then it means that other people are probably judging as well. And it means that depending on where people are on their journey, they may or may not be aware of a whole bunch of layers that they're still carrying. And so if they're not, they can be projecting and holding a whole bunch of energies that we're picking up on. And there again is our discernment, and um being kind to ourselves first. Like, being just like, "Oh, look. Oh, yeah, there it is. Super judgy thought against that person." And then breathe through it until it dissipates, and or a little bit more comes through. And this is where, when we start to engage in a more kind of conscious way of communicating with people. We can have the power to simply express, like, I'm having an emotional experience. I'm going to withdraw. So I'm going to remove myself from people and go feel it out. That's essentially how team love works. That's how I'm working now in certainly my inner circle. If stuff comes up, we withdraw, we sit and process those emotions that are moving through us, and then for as long as it takes, and then come back to gain the clarity received from transforming that density. So it becomes a sort of exponential expansion rather than just the same thing over and over again, like a pattern, or a vicious cycle, that a dissension basically, which takes us deeper into the suffering until we bottom out there. And then those cycles and patterns from within are perpetually being transformed. Hence the idea of this infinite expansion cycle that we can be traversing, rather than always going into the dark. But remember that we feel it in waves. So we have the rises and falls. And then I just need to say that we're coming to the full moon lunar eclipse on Friday. So it's Wednesday today. We're in the belt of it. We're going to be feeling heightened. Other people might be feeling heightened, but we're certainly being given the opportunity to step in, to basically detach and really hold space and be really diligent in your practice of visioning, believing in, um, d- just use all your personal love ammunition and your meditation ammunition to sort of like amplify your ability to stay focused on the amazing beautiful life that you're creating. And um knowing that you're shedding, knowing that you're purging, knowing that you're transforming, knowing that you're perpetually letting go just by being present with the energy that's moving through you, rather than buying into it. So just by the fact that you've been able to shine light on this disparity, is the proof, I would say, that it's expunging from your physicality, from your energy vibration, because you're saying, look at it. And now we can reflect about, yes, we see that, and you don't need that. You don't need to give this woman your power. You don't need to be any one way for her, and trust your intuition when it comes to, there could be subtle projections going on. And if it's too much in any given moment, withdraw. Give yourself permission to take the dog for a walk, or go take a bath, or remove yourself, take care of yourself. Because ultimately, if you're picking up on those energies, it means that those are layers of other that weren't able to really love themselves and look after themselves. And so they're projecting some unconscious ick onto the external world, because you're triggering stuff in them. This is like the expanding to hold the invisible awareness, is that sometimes it's just our presence. It's nothing we're doing or saying. It's the clarity of our own presence that triggers certain responses in people. And that's where we have to keep coming back to self and say, but am I allowed to show up in the truth of who I am? And then for me, that's been a big part of this continual, that I want to continue to show up as the truth of who I am, because that continually will trigger the people around us in such a way. And yet the most important inner circle people, the most important people in our lives, they'll always be there, because that's the truth of our soul's life force here, is that we are forever supported. We are truly, truly loved. And the more we kind of connect to that love, really, really, truly, the people we need in our lives are there for us, and all the right people show up, and in the flow, all the right people kind of ebb in and out. And we're learning stuff about our abundance, we're learning stuff about our wealth, we're learning stuff about our physicality, and our how we have mastery over our bodies. Not the total opposite of our bodies are these other things, but that they're totally and showing us stuff. So especially with the liver stuff coming up, and the seed of anger, and I've had kidney fear. So recognize that often the timelines, when we start to try to analyze it, the timelines get messed up, because if we've been, say, doing quite conscious work for 3 years or 4 years, the physical manifestation of that release. So if you've been consciously transforming lots of anger and looking at your own anger patterns and transforming control patterns, it could well be that at some point the liver is being cleared finally, so the anger that's coming out is now being released. So again, self-love, deep profound love for the body and the work that it's doing for you, hence the manifestation of the pain coming up, it coming out, rather, like it's coming out to be seen on the physical, which is the last level. So the emotional release, the conscious choice, the emotional work, and then the physical release. So what I recognize is the last 2.5 odd years, the leaps that I've taken have been truly like breaking through fears, like facing them and jumping into them and facing them and jumping into them, and at such a speed, so that there, in this last sort of 6 months, there's been a lot of kidney sensation, there's been a lot of like feeling, and that's where it's like you have to honor the body when it needs rest and sleep, and to keep going energetically, but to also honor that this sensation is actually a purging, a physical transformation of that, of those lifelong held fearful patterns. So we could really choose the perception of those releases, those healings coming through the body on the physical, are is the body's cellular program changing. It's the body's, really the organ function of our bodies being upgraded through doing this transformational work. And yet, just like the emotional field, we just have to be present with it. And it's okay to, you know, take some medication or just ease up on ourselves about it all. But do trust always that when we can just be present, even with physical pain, physical sensation, that it still is, the more we expand really pain, that our perception of pain does change. And so we can hold space for our body to clear stuff out in a much more harmonious way, and listen to the intuition when it comes to seeing a doctor, changing our diet, doing different exercise, resting more, maybe taking certain, you mentioned something about Juice Plus, so maybe taking certain, um, what's the word, vitamins and minerals. So I often will get guided, or I like will see a client who randomly just gives me certain juices and certain foods that I wouldn't normally choose myself, but in the moment, because it's in the flow, I always trust, I must need this, I must need this, um uh food, this thing, um and it's going to do my body wonders, you know. And something like, I often intuitively take vitamin C, or ease up on coffee, or you know, things like that. It's just the intuition, deepening that connection, the living intuition, right? Living in the flow, living intuition, being the one with self, and knowing the truth of who you are. It's different from everybody else. But yeah, once the physical to me anyway, how I interpret it, once the physical manifestation is happening, it's actually the last leg, it's like the last stretch of the race, rather, of a cycle. So often it's, but then that makes sense. Like, people get sick and die. That's like the physical manifestation of the next cycle, like in a very profound way, right? So in our own lives, and this is us making that paradigm shift of the world. For us, the transformation is that instead of like going under these transformations and believing that our body's sick and degenerating and always dying, we're flipping that paradigm, right? So we're looking at integrating our soulful expanded self into these bodies, so that these bodies can live healthier for as long as we desire them to, that we can be radiant expansive beings and allow our bodies to move through this time space reality in whatever way we choose ultimately, right? So working with those sort of infinite consciousness practices to stay radiant and healthy and well for the duration of our desired time here on the planet. um so there again is quite a radical perception, it's a radical approach, to this one that I'm definitely working with all aspects of my reality, hence non-judgment of even my own desired things that I don't quite fully understand. And I know that there will be a release when there's a release, there will be healings when there are healings, but I shan't judge the desired effect, because part of our desire is what's leading us to greater awareness. And really all this transformational stuff is just about self-awareness of the energies that we are, of the polarities that we contain as our origins as beings and as our present manifestation now. So I hope that was useful to you. Thank you so much for your comment. I'll continue to feedback and share with you guys as you share more. I'm looking forward. Katie and I are really, really starting to get pumped and excited about the Be the Change online courses, this Fearless Life Tribe. Um, Katie's going to be really managing and spearheading the Zenful Zero Waste course, and then both of us are going to be managing the Be the Change online course community, which is going to be another secret Facebook group. Um, so if you guys want to get involved in that, that would be amazing and really wonderful. As tribe members, you guys are still going to get a 10% discount on all to love products. And then over time, as we expand these courses, the tribe, this tribe will slowly, I'm sure, shift. But right now, I just love you guys so much, and I'm so happy to have you guys as reflections, as like the tribe, the Fearless Life tribe, doing all this loving stuff and permissioning one another to be joyous and radiant and full of vitality and full of love and honesty and vulnerability and transparency and all of that stuff, which really, really, really is to me the new paradigm, the new earth. Breaking free from age-long cycles of darkness and painful suffering through a perception of separation, which has obviously just taken us through this like this really amazing experience, which on some level we've chosen. So yay! I love you guys loads. Have a glorious day, and I look forward to speaking to you real soon. Take care. Bye.